I'm back. um, you know what? They often say that it's not how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get up. So, yes, I got kind of fell off my little white horse and had a couple of days of my pity party. I have custom made pity parties. But anyway, I did that for a couple of days. Sunday I cried. Monday I cried. Monday was more of crying because of gratitude, just being grateful for the many people that, are supporting me and things like that. And so, but one of the things that I had to do, I had to be in my feelings. And I know a lot of people kind of talk negative about that. It's like when they'll say, well, I was in my feelings, and that's supposed to be bad. And it's really not. I think that you should stay there in your feelings, feel those feelings until you have a conversation with them. Explore what they are until you find the triggers, what caused those feelings in the first place. And many times it's connected to our fragile ego's alternate reality, scenarios that our ego have come up with that speaks against what's really there and what you know is your life truth. So that's what I had to do. So for the last 3 days, I pretty much was in my feelings, sorting them out, asking them what did I need to know, or what was going on, what was triggering what really happened this past Sunday. Because I really thought I was okay. I understood how the Kickstarter worked, and I was okay with that. And it was like, okay, well, maybe this is just not the platform. I'll keep going. But then something hit me, and I had to figure out what that was. And so, like I said, a lot of times people want to say, want to avoid being in their feelings, and it's nothing wrong with that. Now, if you are projecting your feelings, if you are denying or lying about your feelings, or you are avoiding them, then that's when it becomes bad. But like I said, I think it's important that we stay in our feelings to explore what's really going on. What is the truth? And that's the only way you can speak truth to those fears that are going on. So settle in, because I'm going to try to tell what's really going on, what was really happening. Several years ago, in the late 80s, all through the 90s, I owned an intimate apparel store for full-size women. Yes, I was, celebrating full figures long before it became popular. So I was ahead of my time. But when I first opened that store, I didn't tell anybody that I owned it. When people would say, oh, do you own this store? Because of the time, because of I had gone through so much racial discrimination and getting loans and things like that. And I knew that people would not really accept, or they don't see a Black-owned business as being valid. And so the story was that somebody else owned the store. The woman got married. She moved to Chicago, and she asked if I would run it. So as long as I told that lie, the store did very well, very well. And a few years into it, somebody convinced me, it was probably 5-6 years into the business, somebody convinced me to say that I owned the business. And I did. And the moment I said that, my business fell off. It fell way off. And instead of me going back within myself and figuring out how do I now promote this, be the voice of that store, to advocate for what that store meant for full-size women and men. I didn't do that. I was afraid, because I had been told so often that I wasn't good enough, that I was inferior, and that as a Black woman, I would always be a peon. And this is from how I was raised, from society, school, church. Everything came at me with, you're not supposed to have that. You're not supposed to do well. Long story short, I lost the business. And in losing it, I realized in retrospect, I did not have an intimate relationship with my business. I did not, I externalized everything. In this society, we're taught to externalize everything, look outside ourselves for answers, copy somebody else who is doing well. And, even God is externalized. And so I lost the business. Well, Sunday, when the break happened for me, I realized that after I had stayed in my feelings to figure them out, what it was that I was using the learning spa. It was my store. When I had my store, I literally hid behind it. It was an entity. And I didn't have to be judged by it. If somebody didn't like the intimate apparel that was there, I didn't have to take responsibility for it. It was the manufacturers who did it. I just carried the product. So I hid behind that store, the facility itself. And I realized that the learning spa was the same thing. I banked on the fact that I would get it funded and I would have this entity, the learning spa, and I would hide behind that. And that was the goal. But when the funding didn't happen and people were saying to me, well, it's because they don't know you, I then realized that I'm now having to be the voice, the face, the energy behind the learning spa. And that scared me. That scared me because I've always been told that I wasn't good enough. That scared me because I felt like if people won't even fund the entity, the learning spa building and all of that and the energy behind it, they won't fund it for me. And so that really is still there. That really got to me. And so now I'm having to work through the fact of coming out and being the voice, coming out and truly being the advocate for the learning spa. My face, my voice, should be associated with it. And that, see, the fear of success comes in so many different forms. That's what I studied. That's what I stand on. That's what the learning spa will begin to teach, how to get out of that prison of fearing your own success, because we do. We fear success more than we fear failure. And so I literally had to face the fact that those feelings were triggered because I now had to realize that people are going to fund the learning spa by knowing me. And that's something that I, struggle with on a daily, that I'm good enough. When you have lived as long as, and your history from the day that you can contemplate or to understand that people see you as inferior because you're first a woman and then you're Black. That, again, is what the learning spa is really all about. How do I free as a liberator? And that's who I am. I am a liberator. But first, I have to learn to truly liberate myself, to truly stand flat-footed and know that I was called to do this thing. And so I'm still learning. And I just kept saying, obviously, there's something more that I'm supposed to learn. And yesterday it came to me that I was afraid. Now the learning spa, the entity was gone. And I stand there naked as Dr. Penny Murray. And people will have to donate because of me. I hope that makes sense. Ashe.